Hey, Wire Monkeys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. Today, I'm pondering the thought, are outside plant technicians smarter than inside plant technicians?
Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, your gateway to the world of ICT. Get ready to dive deep into knowledge that
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project foremen, project managers, estimators, customers, even IT personnel. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching the show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? And if we're not a 5-star rated show, email me and tell me what I need to do to make this a 5-star show. Those simple little steps helps us take on the algorithm so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know, I do a live stream on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and every other social media platform that I can figure out how to get it to, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, and you know that's me. Don't even try to pretend I'm not. Your favorite RCDD questions on installation, certification, design, project management, estimation. I even do career path questions. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into an accident. Relax. I record them, and you can watch them at your convenience. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you find value in this content, would you click on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee, or you can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me after hours, of course. So I know the intro was kind of a hook, kind of prod you a little bit to get you to figure out, hey, what's he going to be talking about? But you see, there's a product that the outside plant people have known about for, oh, I don't know, it seems like forever. And a lot of inside plant people don't know about it, or if they do, they don't use it, but don't realize exactly how this could impact your job, make your job easier, make your job more future proof. Those things that you want with your job, I guarantee you, you're probably shaking your head yes with me right now. I can see you through the camera. You're agreeing with me. So I'm bringing on a special guest. Now this show is another one of those shows. See, people seem to think that you just reach out to somebody and later that afternoon you get on and record the recording and then you pump it out. No, this is another one of those shows that's been over 12 months in the making because wasn't last year, it wasn't this one of the Bixie, it just happened. It was a Bixie before that. I stopped by the Maxell booth, and I love Max. I used to use it all the time. And I said, hey, I need to get you guys on the show. So again, it's been over a year trying to get these people on the show, and it's not their fault. I'll take the full blame here. Chuck dropped the ball on this one because Chuck just got lots of stuff going on, and I totally forgot. And then one day it popped up on my screen as a reminder. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So I reached out to Maxell and said, look, I need to get you guys back on. Of course, they jumped in with both feet. But here's the cool thing. I have officially, after we get done with this show, I have officially had both Tyler Andrews on the podcast. Tyler Andrews from POE of Texas and Tyler Andrews from Maxell. Tyler, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Chuck. Yeah, it was definitely I guess 4 Bixies ago at this, between fall and winter. And by the way, each of those, Tyler Andrews of Pee Wee, Texas and I, we now have our photos together because we've now twice accidentally stolen each other's name tags. So it's we've all been there. So it's going good.
That's cool. That's cool. So let me ask you this. So go ahead and give us the 50,000-foot view. Who is Tyler Andrews from Maxell, and who is Maxell?
Absolutely, yeah. So I am our senior account manager, and I cover all of our projects, enterprise, broadband, carrier, from the data center to your, internet service provider from Virginia all the way to Maine. And been with Maxell for about 2 years now. And during that time, I, started out in the marketing space. doing all of our marketing work, and then moved over to our sales side, where I get to work with all the amazing engineers, designers, all the way to our installers out in the field. So I get to wear the office outfit and the field outfit all in the same week. So and so to that end, what the heck is Maxell? It's this stuff. So we'll dive a little bit in, but we are the fabric textile mesh interduct that's trying to change the way that we deploy fiber in the field.
Yeah, so exactly. So for the person who the first time is hearing about Maxell, because the large majority of my audience is inside plant people. So for the first
Yep.
time they're hearing about it, go ahead and let's dive into a little bit. What is Maxell? And how did it actually come to being?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm gonna, use a little, I like to talk with my hands. So Maxell is specifically designed to create sub pathways for deploying cable. Now and I say cable because it could be fiber optic, could be copper in certain instances still. But the basic element for Maxell is to take a conduit space, say we got a 4 inch right here, and to allow you to deploy multiple cables inside of that conduit space with individual dedicated pathways. Now, you might be more familiar with, seeing HDPE rigid interduct. So, some of the orange stuff out there.
Yep.
Maxell provides that same capacity, same, uh, fiber cable size, but it starts off because of its mesh textile format in a lay flat organization. So to give you the full flexibility of your maximum conduit space, while also not taking up that same space itself. So Maxell is designed not just for outside plant, but also inside plant. Comes in a plenum riser version, but it has been much more popularized in the outside plant space to get fiber to the building, and then we help make sure it gets around the building as well. So,
And that's one of the things I always like. I mean, if you read the TDMM, it tells you that you're supposed to put in 3 introducts inside of that 4 inch pipe and stuff. But that takes up a lot of real estate space inside that conduit. And there is no fill ratios for outside plant conduit per se, because the NEC is not going to really care about that. But so with the fabric interduct, you can put in more fabric interduct and have way more future proofing than you do with like you said with the interduct stuff. You mentioned I think during our pre-show call that Maxell was born out of frustration on a job site. Can you walk us through that origin story?
yeah, a little bit, and it's a little bit. This has been passed down now for 20 some odd years, and it almost has a little bit of a Betsy Ross persona too. Perfect timing. But the background. This is first started by an engineer who was working in the telecom space, and the difficulty came from, I think he was working on a project out in where it matters, out west, we'll say out west. And, the issue was they were in a space where, they had that limited capacity, and, they had a 4 inch conduit. It was full with 3 1/4 inch rigid interduct. And there was still space in there. There was still space that, they had ended up putting in, I think, some, might have been like there was existing copper cable in there, and there was more space. And he just looked at it and said, we could still provide that cable protection without taking up the amount of space that this interduct is doing right now.
Hmm.
So he noodled on this, and actually pulled his wife into it, and the two of them, she actually ended up sewing the first prototype of Maxell, but literally taking just some fabric, laying it over, making sure that it had the same density to protect, and took that, and that was actually where it started back in 1997,
Oh wow.
1997. So it's from there it has gone through a couple of iterations, but that was the first one. Engineer out in the field saw something and said, "Huh, I think we could do it better." And then his wife ended up doing most of the work. So that it's just the way that we work. So yeah.
Behind every successful story is a wife or a spouse really lifting that person up and telling them go on. In this case, she actually went above and beyond, it sounded like.
Absolutely.
You've got patch panels to label and a deadline creeping up. With Fox in a Box and Labicus Innovator, you can print labels for up to 40 1U patch panels in just 30 seconds, giving you back your most valuable resource, time. And it doesn't stop there. This system prints over 100 variations of labels, from cable wraps to fiber flag labels and plenum-tested tie-ons. One software, one printer, one ribbon. It integrates with Fluke Linkware Live and AEM testers, turning test data into print-ready labels fast. Trusted by installers worldwide since 1979 and rated 4.8 on Trustpilot. Silver Fox Labeling. It's about time. Visit silverfoxlabeling.com or call 1-833-848-8484.
What do you think are some common myths or maybe misconceptions that people may hear about when they hear a fabric interduct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the probably the three biggest ones. The first one is, how can, fabric, mesh, what are we really talking about here? Is this really going to be able to protect the cable? And is it going to even be able to protect itself? And I think a lot of people just think of, just a basic fabric. Here we are, we're trying to prevent, burn through, protect the cable. That's the number one thing, is getting people to understand what we're talking about is a reinforced, perforated design that allows for a lightweight fabric, but that also allows for a reinforced, pullable that's not going to tear apart. So the biggest one is textile fabric. Is this really going to be durable? Darn straight. I think the next biggest one is it too flexible? Is this going to be able to provide, give me structure for my cable inside the conduit space? And the way that this is actually designed, it comes with its own backbone, once it's threaded together. And once you actually run your cable inside of this, it actually builds upon the existing structure. So just like if you were to ever try and, let's say you've got a water hose sitting in the backyard, you have it hanging loose, not much that you can do with it, but when you pull it tight, you have a nice, clean, easy pathway. So the tension on this actually gives it its strength. And the third has to do with how it's installed. So a little bit less of the mythological side, but more of the, oh, I've heard about that Maxell. I think I've had some issues with it. So we can talk a little bit about it, but Maxell, when it's installed properly on the front end, is going to be a game changer for the guys who actually have to pull the fiber through it on the back end. So
let's be honest here, right? I mean, anytime somebody uses a product that's new to them, maybe not necessarily new to the industry, but new to them, they're gonna struggle with it.
yep.
And instead of looking at themselves thinking, am I the problem? Not maybe not installing this right. It's got to be the product, right? And that happens quite a lot. Most problems I've found are usually because of operator error, not necessarily because of product error. And don't get me wrong, there can be problems with product. Don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of the issue can be you didn't pay attention when they told you how to install the thing, right?
Oh yeah.
And Maxell, again, it's designed to be put inside a conduit, outside plant between two buildings. So you're putting a cable that's already being protected by conduit under the ground.
Yep.
So really, and outside plant cable's got a thicker jacket, it's polyethylene, and it's a lot more rigid and strong than plenum or rosery cable. So it's got some good strength properties to it as well. So that's why I really think that the fabric interduct system that you guys make is fantastic, because you can put as much of this in there and you can grow that thing out to as fast as you want and not even have any kind of issues. And I'm surprised that it hasn't really been adopted for more inside plant stuff, be quite honest with you, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about tips and tricks for installing Maxell, right? Because you kind of already touched base on, you kind of hinted, and I already told you it's probably operator error because that's usually what it is. Right? What are some key tools or maybe some prep items that a tech's going to need to know before they install Maxell?
Yep. Absolutely. So number one thing, when you are working with Maxell, you're going to need a swivel. So if you've been out in the field, if you're pulling fiber, I was going to say, Chuck, do you have any
I have one
swivels
somewhere in
laying
my
around?
office. I'm looking for it.
So the running joke is, you've either got one on the job site or in your tackle box. So the biggest thing, if you are working with Maxell, and actually it turns out if you're working with fiber, you should have one of these anyway.
Right.
But the biggest thing is when working with Maxell, you need to have a swivel. And what the swivel does is it helps with a very basic physics phenomena, which is everything we're working with is coming off of a reel. But again, I'm going to go back to my garden hose. When you try and coil up that garden hose, or you try and coil up, it's going to have a memory. It's going to have a memory of that, the
Yep.
coil that it actually had. Now, when you actually go to lay that out straight, that hose is actually going to try and twist back to its original form. It's going to have that memory.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is when you go to install anything, this is for fiber, this is for Maxell, that pull string, that mule tape, that whatever you've got in there is going to have that memory of that spin. And over that 100,000-foot pull, it's going to transfer all of that spin onto whatever you're pulling in. In the case of Maxell, that spin will transition to your, while durable, but flexible interduct. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to create this twisting issue. So, number one tip, Maxell needs to be installed with a swivel because all of that twisting ends up getting passed along to the front edge of the swivel and the back end comes in flat and straight. That is the single key biggest thing that we can recommend. Now, there's a whole bunch of other components beyond just using the swivel. You can use override paddles if you're, using an application where you need to throw it on the end of a rodder to navigate through. We have all kinds of different, ways of terminating your duct space, but the single biggest one that I got to say is make sure you have a swivel. And if you do have a swivel, make sure it's a breakaway. So as you're doing your install, might have a nice tensile strength on the cable. Make sure your swivel is going to be the first thing that breaks away because your cable is going to cost a little bit more than this thing. So
Yeah, exactly. So is there a specific rated breakaway head? Do you recommend a 600 pound head or what?
So the answer is, we offer 600 and 2500, two very different ends of the spectrum, but the recommendation is what's the length of your pole? It's really going to come down to what's the length of your pole and what size cable you're working with. If you're doing a short run, then you can get away with a 600 pound breakaway. If you're doing a longer run, then and you're using a larger cable, you go ahead and use that 2500. But it's really going to come down to what's the total distance and what's the tensile strength of the cable. So that's why I say it's not really cut and dry, except if you run the math on those two elements. So
Right. So, outside plant guys like using yellow 77 on their
Mm.
cable. Is there any adverse effect of yellow 77 being used in conjunction with Maxell?
So yellow 77 is actually Maxell is designed to deal with pretty much any chemical. The one thing that you shouldn't use is cooking oils. We've literally seen it. We have seen. You know what? Let me grab some, cooking oil. More so when we've, had to do some projects in, other countries. But
Right, right.
uh, you have a bunch of different lubrication options. Don't use something you're going to pull out of your kitchen. That's pretty much our biggest promise here on the yellow 77 is not going to be an issue, but your cooking oil can lead to a little bit of breakdown. So yeah.
Right, right, right. When you were saying that, I remember because, like I said, I pulled outside plant cable myself, and even inside plant cable and conduit, and I'm not gonna say that I ever did this, but I have seen people use soap from the men's room, Dawn dish soap. I've never seen cooking oil though. That was the first one because I never usually. I mean, that person never had cooking oil on their truck.
You never know. Hey, listen, when you're on the job site, you got to be ready for pretty much whatever. So this is we have to add that disclaimer in there because otherwise somebody's like, "Wow, we didn't touch on this yet." So, you
Right.
know, Make sure you don't have the chef pulling your cable for you.
There you go. There you go.
Whether you're pulling your first cable or managing multi-million dollar installs, you're not alone. Welcome to Low Voltage Nation, the largest, most active community of low voltage pros in the game. With over 176,000 members on Facebook and growing, this is where ICT professionals connect, collaborate, and level up together. Got a question? You'll get answers from real techs with real experience. Facing a job site challenge? Someone here has solved it, and we'll show you how. From fiber to access control, estimating to entrepreneurship, Low Voltage Nation is your power network. This isn't just another group, it's a movement. Join the community today at lowvoltagenation.com or jump into the conversation at our Facebook group. Because in this industry, the strongest signal comes from those who connect.
We pulled in the Maxell. It's laying in there now. So now we're getting ready to pull that cable inside that Maxell. Is there any kind of pulling techniques or maybe a learning curve that somebody's used to doing, like HDPE or something like that, that they're gonna have to maybe adjust to pull cable through Maxell?
So I think fundamentally, if you are accustomed, so when working with installers, if you're accustomed to pulling HDPE, you're actually gonna love switching over to Maxell. Because you're actually gonna have an easier pull. It's a lighter weight product. It is a lower coefficient of friction, not just on the fiber install, but on the actual upfront of installing your interduct. Literally, the only fine-tooth piece is making sure that you have a swivel, which is sometimes something you don't have to do with HDPE. But whether you're pulling in, one single pack of Maxell, whether you're pulling in, you can do 3 packs, 4 packs at a time. The biggest piece is going to be your front end installation and the way you actually tie off to the front. With Maxell, you're actually going to, fabric interduct, you'll just cut a slit right above your sewing thread, and you can actually tie on from that point. So it should be fundamental, as long as you had a good pair of snips. That's, maybe that's my other tool in addition to the swivel. Always good to have a good strong set of snips.
Yep.
But if you're accustomed to pulling HDPE, it's actually going to be easier to switch to pulling Maxell. You can actually pull 4 times as fast. It's actually
Right.
per NICA. So the biggest thing, trivia tidbit. Actually, Chuck, we'll throw the question to you.
Okay.
If you are going through a long line that has a sweeping 90 at the end, you've got 100 feet, and then you have a 90 sweep, and then another 10 feet.
Okay.
Which end should you start on to pull through?
Oh, that's so make it understand correct. We got a 100-foot piece of conduit,
Yep.
and within 10 feet of one end is a 90-degree sweeping bend. Okay.
Yes.
I
Yep.
would rather hit that 90-degree bend at last, not first, coming through that conduit system.
Chuck, it's actually the other way around.
Ah,
You
dang it,
are
man.
actually, I know. So you're actually gonna have an easier time. You want to start closer. You want to start closer to your hard turn. So pretty much you'd have to blow your pulling line. You'd pull from the long side, but you want your thing to run into that 90 first. So
See, there you go. I
yeah.
learned something new today. I
Look-
tell everybody,
look at that.
learn one new thing every day. And there was my one new thing today.
It's a good line to live by. I like that.
It is. Yeah, it served me well. It served me well. Is there any kind of errors or problems that you tend to see first time installers get wrong?
Yes. The biggest one. So I actually couple. First one, what'll happen if you pull in without the swivel? Here's why it's so fundamentally important. Because when you are looking at a conduit, when you're looking in the end, how many times is that twisted? I have no idea. So, one of the biggest issues is you're not going to be able to diagnose. Heck, sometimes it's hard to figure out, where did we actually run this cable? Where is this
Right.
conduit going? So to then be able to say, what does it look like on the inside? It's a whole nother issue. So on the front end, making sure that there is a swivel. If you are the guy who, or the installer who comes in on the back end, which could be, hey, we've run our pathway and we're pulling our fiber in. It could be tomorrow. It could be next week. It could be 5 years from now. Like I've walked down my own street and seen Maxell that I know was produced at least 10 years ago. So the question, what you have to do is not only install it right on the front end, but if you happen to be an installer, before you go to just, all right, I got to pull in the fiber no matter what. Inside of the Maxell, you have your individual pull tapes. So as you've got these, inside each cell, you have a free floating mule tape, pull tape. First thing you should do, make sure that those tapes can slide. That's the easiest way to see if your Maxell has actually been twisted inside your pipe. If you are having issues trying to pull those tapes through, now also make sure that you haven't tied off the tape on the other end, because that is something you should do for the install.
So you don't pull the pull string back into the thing. Yeah, done that once.
Right. Don't pull it all the way back through and create a whole new problem. So yeah. So that's one of the things we highly encourage is install it right in the first place, but then when you actually go to pull it in, check and see if you have a nice easy slide, because it's going to sound crazy. If you do come across Maxell where that float, it's not free floating, if your pull tape's not free floating, it's actually going to be easier for you to go ahead and pull the Maxell out and install it the right way. And even if it's 500 feet, 1,000 feet, the amount of time it will take you to reinstall that is actually going to be 1/10, 1/20th of if you're trying to strong arm that thing through. Now, if you got a new guy who's his first week on the job, maybe let him give it a little try first. But
do we put that up there with sending out to the truck to get a bucket of dial tone? Is that where you put that?
Absolutely. Yep. Right up there with the dial tone.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
What pull strength is the mule tape that you guys put in the Maxell?
So the Maxell, it depends on the size. So Maxell, if you're going with a 3-inch 3-cell, that's going to have a 1250 braking strength. So 1,250 pounds.
Yep.
That should not be your braking issue.
Right.
If you're working with with a smaller Maxell, it's going to be about 1,000 pound braking strength. But we do go up to 1,800 pounds as well. So
Gotcha.
those pulled tapes should not be your weak point when working with Maxell.
A quick word from the folks who help make this show possible. Are you ready to boost your fiber game? Then check out Go Far Fiber Training School, where you'll learn from the best. Lee Renfro, RCDD, Bixie Tech, and 3-time winner of the Bixie Cable Skills Challenge himself. Whether you're pulling your first strand or prepping for certification, Go Far delivers hands-on, real-world training that gets you job site ready. Don't just go far. Lee will take you all the way. Sign up today and start leveling up your career. Visit GoFar on LinkedIn or click on the link in the description below.
One of the examples you gave earlier was that having the memory and stuff. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking I was just doing some when I was visiting my sister last week, helping take care of my mom. She had me put in a watering system in her garden because she knows I do farms. And one of the biggest things about poly tubing is exactly right. I mean, it's cooled in a circle, and then you try to run it down your garden, it does the whole thing. So I told her, I said, lay it out in the yard in the sunlight and just let it sit for a couple hours. It will straighten out, right?
Absolutely.
So is that something that would that be a tip maybe for Maxell as well, or just no, it can come right off the spool, go straight into the conduit?
So the Maxell is not the piece that's going to have that issue. So two things from that. You can, if you were to do anything, you could potentially lay your mule tape out in the sun to let it, flatten out a little bit.
Right.
You wouldn't want to do that with Maxell, because while Maxell is UV resistant, over time, that the UV can cause the fibers within Maxell to break down.
Gotcha.
Not break, but it will weaken it. So if you've got a reel of Maxell on the job site, we actually ship it with a layer of black plastic to
Okay.
keep on. So if you've taken off, you've got a 10,000 foot reel, you use 1,000 feet, put the sheeting back on or keep it in the shade. So don't leave it in the sunlight as a way to flatten it out. So yeah.
You may not know the answer to this one. How
Cool.
much does Maxell weigh? If I've got, I don't know, 100 feet of it, 1,000 feet, how much is that going to weigh?
So here's the crazy thing. 1,000 feet of 3-inch three cell can go on a composite reel and ship UPS overnight.
Nice. Nice.
So it weighs less than 100 pounds.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's a
Yep.
lot less than than 1,000 feet of HDPE. Just saying.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exact. Good luck getting an overnight shipment of that. Yeah.
Right, right. And then, how much is a common carrier going to cost to ship that compared to some, UPSing something as well. A lot of times,
Exactly.
we do like using rodders and stuff like that to put in pull string stuff, but especially with like newer systems, some outside plant guys like to use jetting systems, like blow their string in and stuff. How would
Yeah.
they use a jetting system knowing they're going to be putting Maxell in? Is there anything different with that?
So if you want to jet, so you can jet Maxell in, and you actually can jet fiber through Maxell. It's just not as efficient. But if you are jetting the Maxell into place in the same way that you would throw, plastic bag or whatever's your driving force through for your blowing piece,
Hmm.
um, you would follow a normal install method with that. And Maxell should be able to go that same distance.
Gotcha.
Um, we are, that has been brought up, hey, is there a way to do a better, blown fiber through Maxell? Biggest issue just being, if you've ever been in a restaurant trying to, blow a straw at somebody and it's got a whole bunch of holes in it.
Right.
So we're working on that. We're working on that as well to make that a little bit better too.
Oh, so that might be some future improvement coming down the pike.
Potentially coming down the pathway.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, let me ask you this question. Let's say that I wanted to go to my local gray bar and I don't have an established relationship with gray bar. I'm just Joe Blow walking in off the street, getting
Yeah.
stock manufacturer suggested retail pricing, right?
Yeah.
How much is Maxell?
So it's gonna depend mainly on a couple of different things. Usually you're gonna be looking at $5, $5 a foot if you're going off a 3.3. Now again, it's gonna be based on a whole number of components, your total reel size,
Right.
cuts, where it's going, but roughly around a little less than five. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So now we talk about installation tips and techniques. The problem is, unless you got a company that's forward thinking, a company that's always looking for a way to maximize, proficiency in installation, most
Hmm.
companies aren't going to deal with something unless it's spec'd into the design, right?
Sure,
So
yep,
let's have a conversation towards like maybe the project managers and maybe the designers or estimators. For those who are creating bid packages or submittals, how do you
yep,
suggest positioning Maxell in their specs?
yep. So Maxell is always going to be in well, it's either going to be in section 26 or section 27, depending on how your project is put together. But usually, if you are seeing conduit, if conduit is getting put in and fiber is getting put in, likely you have an opportunity for Maxell to be in there as well.
Hmm.
Especially if you're working with metal, your any of your metal conduit raceway, a lot of opportunity for Maxell. So again, that conduit, especially our 4-inch PVC, can sometimes be used in other utilities as well. But if fiber is going alongside, Maxell is going to have a piece to play. Now, Maxell, it could be. We've also, we have smaller versions of Maxell that are designed to fit inside even 2-inch and inch and a half existing
Oh, wow.
HDPE duct.
Wow.
So, it's not just limited to 4-inch conduit. We've actually done this, especially in rural and residential applications where you can run smaller formats. So, what we're, if you've got fiber on the project, if you have conduit positions in a similar part of that project,
Hmm.
Maxell as a fit. Um, yeah.
I
The
did not
one
know
thing,
that. And you see, I always
yeah,
always used Maxell with 4-inch conduit, and for those
yeah,
kind of installs, I never knew that they can go to stuff that small. It's funny because when you're saying that, I've got HDPE sitting up by the new podcast studio that I got to run a fiber cable from the new podcast studio down here to the house to get my connectivity.
Yeah,
It'd be really nice to have some Maxell in there. I'm just saying that.
yeah.
Just putting that out there.
Well, I think here's where it gets really fun working with Maxell is again, I say Maxell comes in a couple of different sizes. One first to call out, Maxell, we call 3-inch Maxell 3-inch
Mhm.
because it's designed to fit in a 3-inch conduit. Here's where that frankly is a little bit backwards. People think it's only designed for 3-inch conduit. No, you can fit three 3-inch 3-cells to get 9 pathways in a 4-inch conduit.
Right.
But Maxell can come in larger sizes and smaller sizes, but also in different configurations. We go up to 4 cells, or as small as 2 cells. Reason we say that, in that 4-inch conduit, you could actually fit 3 2-inch 4-cells in a 4-inch pathway. And now you've got 12 pathway.
Wow.
4-inch conduit, you have 12 pathways.
Wow.
So we create sort of this whole new mathematical, metric. I drive our head of engineering crazy because I'm like, yeah, but standardize this for me. Everybody's asking
Right.
me, what do I need? What can I fit? And he's like, what size is your cable? How many cables are you trying to do? Like,
That's
can't.
I get that because I'm a former estimator, right? If somebody
Oh
asks
yeah.
me, what's the average cost per run, I'm going to ask them, what's the ceiling look like? What kind of cable is it? What's my average run like? I get those questions. I truly do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But let me ask you this: do you guys have any kind of design tools or maybe tables where a project manager or an estimator is not fluent in Maxellese can say, "Oh, look,
Yeah.
I got 4-inch pipe, and I can use this product and get X amount of cells out of it."
We do, we do. So we have one on our site that can give you that basic fill ratio calculator based on this number of cables, this number, this size, and then this is the Maxell that I want to use because that's the other benefit. Maxell does take up a little bit of space, but it takes up a heck of a lot less space than you're
Right.
getting lost out of rigid. So, we have a calculator that helps with that. We have one that on our website is a very basic version of that. We have one that can give you every single calculation based on your bends, based on your, this is the product that I want to use, and we can
Right.
give you the best configuration and even mix and match Maxell sizes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Make sure you send me those links after the interview, and I'll make sure I'll put that in the show notes because I can hear the estimator screaming at me now. Chuck, where can
I
I
need to
find that? Where can I find? I
link
can
it,
hear him. I can hear
link
him
it.
screaming at me already.
Let's take a short break. Are you trying to reach the technicians, project managers, and decision makers of the ICT industry? Then why aren't you advertising on Let's Talk Cabling? With over 150,000 impressions a month across podcasts, YouTube, and social media, this isn't just a show, it's the go-to resource for the low voltage industry. We spotlight the tools, training, and technology shaping the future of structured cabling, and your brand could be front and center. Don't just get noticed, get trusted. Email Chuck at advertising@letstalkcabling.com and let's connect your brand to the right audience today.
One thing that manufacturers love to do, and because my day job, I work for manufacturers, so I've seen this happen where I work. I've seen it happen in other places too. They always build these case studies, right? Well,
Mhm.
look, if you use this product, you're going to save X amount of material, X amount of labor costs when you use it towards it instead of doing it like that way. You guys had to have done some kind of a case study on how much Maxell saves in material and labor compared to doing HDPE.
Yes. Yep.
Eh,
Now the study's a little bit old,
Okay.
but if you're looking at comparing apples to apples, and again, it's based on a 4-inch conduit space. We're looking at that. What you can do is you could actually cut your costs in half by switching over to Maxell.
Right.
Cut your costs in half, but also triple your total capacity for fiber in that space.
When you say cut in
So
half, do you mean cut the material cost in half, cut the labor cost in half, or cut both of them in half?
cut both of them in half.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy
Yep.
smokes.
Yeah. So you can lower what we're looking to do is lower your total operating cost. And the biggest issue has really come in that you're not really getting a Innerduct comes in a single line tube,
Right.
and Maxell comes in a multi-cell pack.
Right.
So what we've tried to do is put it as an apples to apples, and that's how we've lowered the total cost of materials and lowered the total cost on the contractor side for the install, while also increasing capacity. So the final math is it's cut your total operating cost in half,
Right.
but it has increased your capacity 3x from what you would normally be working with.
And that's going to ring some bells for those people who love to future proof or like to put in extra stuff because they know, while underground is the most expensive way to do cabling between two buildings initially,
Yep.
over the lifespan, it's actually the cheapest because all you do is attach to the mule tape or the pull line and just zip it in.
Well, and that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to drive home with Maxell is if you were working in a conduit space, you're already accepting the most expensive part. It's the trenching, it's the
Right.
installing of the conduit.
Right.
So, what would you do if you could use 66% less conduit because you can 3x your usage of a single 4-inch space?
Right.
With Maxell, you might have planned for, I need three cables now. Okay, but have you left in one for maintenance? Have you left in one for future growth?
Yep.
Like what? Yes, you've planned for today, but what have you planned for tomorrow?
Right.
Because you know there's going to come that project. Help yourself out for the future. Yeah.
So you mentioned the plenum rated Maxell.
Yeah.
Or at some point, are you going to do a case study for using plenum rated Maxell versus Interduct? Because I tell people all the time, number one, Interduct's not required by the standards. It's a de facto standard. There's nothing in the standard says you have to use Interduct, right?
Yep.
But and a lot of people automatically assume that Interduct is for protection. I'm talking about corrugated Interduct right now, not Maxell.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Corrugated Interduct, while it does provide some minimal, and I emphasize that word minimal protection, because if you ever stepped on a piece of Interduct installing, it doesn't provide a whole bunch of protection. The two real reasons for Interduct is it's a visual warning for other trades. Look, stay away from my cable. If you break it, I'm going to charge you $1 million to come fix it, right? And it's a pathway for future fibers. So you're obviously knocking the pathway for future fibers out of the ballpark, right? Let me
Mm.
ask you this. So the whole my ADHD kicked in right there, right? Squirrel, squirrel. So my question is, at some point, to try to attract maybe more inside plant people to use Maxell instead of Interduct, is there on the radar maybe a case study you might be working on or might be thinking about working on to help those people who do the inside plant to realize, look, you could save. I'll just use your outside plant. You could save half the labors and triple your capacity.
Yes, we are actively working on that because your total material cost switching from traditional plenum
Right.
to plenum riserated Maxell is actually even more of a cost savings
Oh
than what
well.
you have in the outside plant space. So yes, that is actively in the works. So yeah.
Great minds think alike. Gotta
Man,
love
look
it.
at you, Chuck.
Gotta
Appreciate
love
that.
it. It's almost like I've had the headache of having to design and estimate cable before
Have,
and
have,
had to
have, have
and
you
had to justify my actions to a customer.
Yeah,
Just
it's almost like you've had experience in this space,
just saying.
trying to put out fires before they've started. Yeah.
Exactly right. So let me ask you this, again, let's say a brand new project manager, brand new estimator listening to this show, they never heard of Maxell before and they're like, "Man, I could save half the cost and get triple the I want to start using it, but I ain't never designed Maxell before." Do you guys offer any kind of engineering guidance or is there any kind of, benefits you help those kind of people design Maxell for their projects?
Absolutely. So
Nice.
I'm going to throw out two nuggets. One, so my job is to not only help you design with it, I'm also there to help you install it on the back end. So consider me your official, guy who not only helps you with the order, but make sure it goes in on the front end at the pipe. The other, we actually do offer a Bixie accredited training worth 2 CECs. So that's the other side that I like to run around, like to talk to people, but I get to also give some other
Nice.
benefit in return.
Now
So
that Bixie CEC class, is it a face-to-face class? Is it a virtual class? Is it an online computer-based class? What?
All three as an option. So we do it as lunch and learns, we do it as a hybrid, and we do it as virtual. So we've got, pretty much sort of we're going to be launching a monthly regularly scheduled one starting in August. So you can just book it on your calendar and come in with a bunch of other RCDDs. But if you have a team that you want to knock it out, you reach out to myself, we get it scheduled, we bring it to you. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Let me know the next time you do one of those ones, and I'd love to hop on and earn me a couple CECs towards my RCDD.
I got you. I got you.
As it's funny, as a credentialed professional, you're always looking. It's when I hear training. First question always is it recognized for CECs? How many CECs is it recognized for?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's so interesting, that those CECs, those are valuable. Those are super
Oh,
valuable.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Tyler, if somebody wants to find out more about Maxell, or they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Best way is to either go to maxell.us, maxcell.us, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn and ready to, talk to anybody about cabling. So, yes.
I appreciate you coming on the show and dropping some nuggets of knowledge for us in this thing. And now I can officially say I've had both Tyler Andrews on the podcast.
I love it. I love it. We'll get a group photo with the next Bixie.
Yes, yes, that's what we need to do. We all three of us. I think he's going to be at Bix and Beyond. I think.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
um,
I'll
I'm I'm
I'll I'll
I'm
I'll see if I can sneak over to that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's a very good chance, a 99.44 100% chance I'll be there as well too. I can't definitely say that yet because I haven't actually put in for the vacation time yet. So,
It's
but
fine. Yeah, talk to
yeah,
me.
there you go. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Tyler.
Thank you, Chuck.